Welcome to lab number 3 for AGPR201 Basic Soil Science. The laboratory today is entitled Soil Genesis and Profile Development. If we examine the term genesis, what this term implies is a change or developmental state of the soil. Initially today we're going to talk about what are referred to as the processes of soil formation. These processes of soil formation are what lead to or cause the development of the subordinate layers, which we now know are called horizons in the soil profile. Let's begin with the information that I have behind me here to my right on the board, entitled Processes Occurring in the Soil Forming Environment. I would like to start out by saying that these processes are a combination of physical, chemical, and biological processes. If we start by thinking of a mass of rock or parent material in a consolidated state, and we apply the soil forming processes to that, one of the first things that must occur is a physical breakdown of that rock or mineral matter. This is caused by processes such as wetting and drying, freezing and thawing, and eventually, later, root growth and extension of plants into that soil. This physical process of weathering will cause the size of the rock or mineral matter to be decreased, which will then increase the surface area. As we increase surface area, we provide more surface for the chemical process of weathering. Chemical processes of weathering include things such as hydration, oxidation-reduction reactions, carbonation, complexation. All of these are discussed in this chapter on soil formation in your textbook. What these weathering processes, both physical and chemical, are doing are creating the initial soil from which we will begin to generate some biological activity. Biological activity will be such things as the microorganisms that begin to develop and live in the soil, and eventually plant growth, which occurs on top of this soil. This plant growth will then contribute organic matter to the soil, and we will begin to see some development of horizons within the profile. I've outlined here 6 different specific processes which occur in the soil forming environment. The first of these is the weathering of minerals and clay formation. Minerals, at the time the rocks are initially formed, are predominantly primary minerals. So primary are those which are the original rock and parent material. As this weathers and begins to break down both physically and chemically, we get the development of secondary minerals. This term secondary implies secondary in origin, meaning that they were formed as a result of the breakdown of the primary. Through further weathering and development, these secondary minerals, some of which will become secondary clay minerals. These secondary clay minerals are important because they are the ones that are going to impart characteristics such as nutrient holding capacity and the ability to release nutrients for plant growth. So weathering of minerals and clay formation is one of the important soil forming processes which will occur. A second process is called organic matter accumulation. Organic matter, of course, that is material which is derived from plant or animal origin. We begin to see the microbial life develop in the soil. We also see plants begin to grow in this soil as it's developing. And those plants, through death and deposition of roots and other types of materials, are going to add organic matter into this soil. Now, as organic matter is added to the soil, we will begin to see a darkening of the surface layer of this soil. This is beginning to show us some profile development and or the distinction of horizons in this profile. Also occurring at this time will be a process which is called ion exchange. Now, ion exchange is where ions that were at one point in time part of the mineral itself, such as a primary mineral, in that form, these elements are not available to that plant, to plants growing in that soil, or even to microorganisms which are living and reproducing in that soil. In order for them to become available, they must be exchanged. So the process of exchange is basically breaking down and weathering of these minerals and releasing of these elements as free ions, implying that they are now out in the soil solution. And of course, if they're found in solution, we know they're also going to be found on exchange sites. on the surface of these secondary clay mineral particles. Well, what's the relevance or significance of this process? The significance is that once they reach the soil solution or the surface of these particles, they then become available to plants growing in that soil. A fourth and very important process in the development of soils is called translocation. Translocation implies a movement.